Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm recording this super late. I'm gonna do both chapter 7 and chapter 8 right now. Um, Sorry for taking a while to get these uploaded. Kind of got swamped with grading, but here we are, chapter 7, the media chapter. I've had a lot of students out of class, so a lot of you guys might have been missing out on some of this. This is one of the more entertaining chapters to cover in political science. This one, and I would say the ideology chapter are probably the most fun. Now, you should know the three roles that media plays within government. Mhm. It plays a role in teaching you guys what's going on in the world. It plays a watchdog role where it's keeping government power in check. It also gives us something to talk about, so that's the socialization role. A free press is also a good indicator of a democracy. Now, even though the press is free, doesn't mean that it is fair. So some politicians are going to receive unfair coverage at times, whether they are receiving more positive coverage or negative coverage. So there's some issues with that because at the end of the day, media companies are private companies, and their main goal is to make money. So, and also provide us with entertainment. You should know about this. This is just kind of like the founding era, the first time where we see someone kind of classify the news as fake news, and it is with William Cosby, who's the governor who was upset about the New York Weekly's journal's coverage of him on his job. Two things kind of arose from this case was that we should actually media plays a pretty good role for our democracy. Some consider it the fourth estate, and that we probably can't always trust politicians. This chapter is directly related to freedom of speech. So if you decide to write for that prompt later on in the semester for our final paper, this is a good chapter to come back and reference. Once again, this just goes back to talking about libel laws or the libel laws now. The media is not supposed to be posting false or scandalous information. So everything that the media posts should be true. Now, the first type of journalism is going to be yellow journalism. You should know all three of these, by the way. I like to call this TMZ. These are all the negative things that the media likes to cover. So it's what you guys like to write about for your current events, right? Like you guys are writing about murders and shootings, and there's very little, I would say, like positive things that current event wise that we like to keep up with. We like the negative stuff because for some reason we just tend to be more attracted to those types of things. Okay. A good example of this, if you guys ever seen the movie Nightcrawler, okay, kind of covers how yellow journalism has kind of taken over. It also doesn't take that much time and money to create, like Mudracker and Watchdog. These both take investigative reporting. You have to go out, you have to survey individuals. It takes a lot of time to put the story together. And then after putting these stories together, sometimes people don't aren't really the most interested in it because instead of seeing like some investigation that took place within a city over like the past year, we want to see what happened, like a car accident wise, okay, or a weather disaster, or things like that. Mass media. This just talks about CNN versus Fox. I posted a picture on Canvas actually about this, and it kind of just shows us that both channels can be talking about the same thing, but in a different manner. And this is kind of problematic because the media now seems less informational and more like propaganda, and that puts more of a responsibility on us because we have to kind of funnel through all of this information, okay? We're less dependent on institutional media. A lot of us like user generated content. So, like, we are choosing what TV channel we want to watch. We are choosing what is popping up on our Instagram timeline, on our TikTok timeline. So, that's kind of important. And even when it isn't us choosing our timeline, like a traditional newspaper, or how like a radio station was going, or like sometimes you could say the TV program, they have their own kind of schedule set times. We kind of have to be aware about funneling information. Okay? This just shows content like how it's being consumed mainly over a device like personal devices. The radio and TV is starting to take some hits, or print publications taking some hits. TV and our personal devices, our laptops, our phones seem to be on the rise, and it's across all age groups. Okay, so something to be concerned with because as we continue throughout the future, I think we're going to become even more and more digital. And once again, like we aren't seeing print newspapers anymore. And no one's listening to the radio anymore. You get in the car, people are choosing to listen to their own music. They're choosing, once again, user generated content like podcasts. Okay. Uh, when we are watching the news, a lot of us are getting it from social media. And once again, it's just kind of common. You guys, for you, it's TikTok, and Instagram. For your parents, it's Facebook. Okay. Also, one thing that kind of go back on too, socialization is one of the roles. So it gives media gives us something to talk about. You guys do this with your friends all the time when you're sending TikToks back and forth with one another. You come to school and you talk about what you've seen online. Like a good example, current event wise, a lot of people wrote about the artist David. Great example. Gives us something to talk about when the P. Diddy trial first started. And once another example, giving us something to talk about. The Menendez brothers. That was a super old court case, okay? Came back in the media, everyone's talking about it, okay? And all those examples, by the way, are all examples of yellow journalism, which tend to be negative things because we are more attracted to reading about that rather than reading about someone raising money for cancer, okay? I'm not saying that everyone, uh, like, people wouldn't want to hear that type of story, it's just the negative things tend to be more interesting. Now, this isn't as important. This just talks about how you can't say whatever you want. So whenever we get to questioning whether or not media should have like true freedom of speech, just know that we'll start to question whether or not rights are being infringed. First Amendment rights, okay? Um, Something that's important to know off here. It's not just about sharing false information or slander, like trying to tear down someone's character, but it's also publishing. I know there's a few errors on here. Punishing individuals who post factual information that is dangerous to national security. An example of this that we're seeing it right now is actually like media companies or news stations, or there's an app on the App Store that got pulled, letting people know about ICE raids that were happening. Now, even though that is factual information, that can be deemed harmful to national security. Or if we were going to bomb another country, we don't want CNN or Fox kind of reporting that and letting the other country know because that can put us kind of at a risk. Okay, and I'll make sure to fix those. I already have those fixed. I just need to post the newer slides for you guys. Now, should internet be unrestricted or content should be filtered and regulated? The rest of this chapter kind of just talks about protecting children. Okay, you should know all of these, not these. There's specific court cases or specific laws. These couple right here just talk about the FCC being created and overseeing radio and TV, kind of regulating what you guys can and cannot see, what is educational, what is maybe inappropriate for people because whether it's adults or maybe it's even children. We've They've also done their best to try to deregulate the industry to make sure that there's no monopoly. However, almost all of our media is owned by like the same media companies, like parent companies. So there's not really too much competition in the marketplace right now when it comes to our media. Um, Now, both of these examples right here kind of talk about protecting children. The first thing was sending obscene or indecent messages to any person under the age of 18. Now, this seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, that should be illegal, right? We don't want children to be talking in a sexual manner or adults talking to children in a sexual manner. Now, with that being straightforward, you're probably like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. That should be a law that's easily passed. Now, this got challenged in Reno versus American Civil Liberties Union, okay? Now, the reason it was problematic is because it was limiting adults' ability to engage in this conversation. Okay, so it raises a couple questions. Okay, first, how do you know who is 18 online? Okay, or sending things through media? That's one thing. And then two, um, not only do you know who is 18, how do you know that they're sending sexual or indecent messages? So who is tracking that? So that's a privacy thing, and then also a freedom of speech thing. Okay, because of this, the cost kind of outweighed the benefits. Okay, so you're thinking like, yeah, you know what, children might come across these messages, but we want to be able to make sure that people's freedom of speech isn't limited. Okay, especially adults. Okay, and I know it sounds crazy and it doesn't make the most sense, and it's just a tough thing to kind of cover right here. The power problem in this chapter, by the way, we like to look at is whose problem is this actually to fix? Is this a government issue? Is this a private company issue? Or is this a family issue? So at home, should we be regulating how we consume information? Now, the Child Protection Act of 1998, remember legislation in the courts always going to be lagging behind. It's very hard to keep up with something like the internet, which kind of like fast tracked and it became more and more accessible as we've gone along. Now, the next way that we thought we could protect children to make sure they don't come across these indecent messages or something that's inappropriate, let's just put age verification, okay? And if you don't put this age verification, it's going to lead to a fine of $50,000 and a 6-month prison term. Now, those age verifications aren't that good. Okay, and you guys understand that, right? It's really easy for you guys. You guys, when you made your social media, probably lied about your age, right? Or when you go on a certain website, you're probably clicking the box saying, "Yeah, I'm an adult," and you just lie about your birthday. Okay, that's once again, like, is that the company's issue? Is that a government issue? Because government was trying to protect children from getting online. The private company tried and obliged to it. It seems like that might be a family issue at that point. And I'm not trying to convince you because it's a mix of all of them. But once again, this kind of got um, challenged again in court. And District Judge Lau Reed explained that it's not a good idea to protect minors by limiting their rights as adults. I think this directly relates to your guys' age demographic, okay? Uh, the high school student, where you guys are, and the college student as well, even because, some of you are in college, 18, 19, 20 years old, whatever it is. You guys are in that in between. You're not children anymore, but you're not really adults. And then even if though some of you that are above 18 are technically adults, you don't really feel like adults. Like, how is it that we expect you guys to be able to vote? How is it that we expect you to kind of get back into society, but then we're not letting you go on certain websites to learn about things? And some of these things can be educational, by the way. Okay, like some of your guys' school has certain websites blocked off. That could be beneficial to you learning. There's some topics that maybe are considered like taboo, like you shouldn't be talking about them, like sexual education, or maybe things that are violent, like in history. You can talk about the wars, and you don't understand the true version of the war unless you go over the violent part. District Lowry just kind of discussed that, like, is this actually doing kids any favors because you're sheltering them and they're going to become grown, like children at that point. Regardless, though, everyone's going to have a different opinion on this. Could we have a better way of making sure people are following this age requirement? Probably, if we verify identification. But do we think it's a good idea to put our our identification in a private company's website? Probably not, because they have data breaches all the time. Um, not this, obviously not a media company, but AT&T just had a data breach. Okay, Apple's had data breaches before, and you think I'm gonna trust Instagram to take care of my personal information like my ID, or Facebook, or Twitter, or Snapchat, or TikTok? Probably not. Okay. A good example of this too, just more recent. If you guys know what the T app is, it's an app for that only females can get on, and they could pretty much talk about their encounterments with certain males, okay, in the dating world, and just to warn other girls out there. Within the first week of this app going up, obviously they needed to confirm who was a woman and who was not because they only wanted women on the app. They did an ID verification. Within the first week, every woman who had signed up's information was leaked because they had a data breach. So all of these women who joined the app, full name is out there, their photo, and their address. Just very dangerous once again. Okay, obviously we're trying to protect certain people, have verification ways of making sure certain people can see things and certain people can't. But then there's also giving up some of your personal information and maybe some of your freedom. Okay. Now, media regulation. Okay, how do we protect kids at school? Because obviously at school we don't want you guys online at or on TikTok at least. Okay, and it's good when we ban maybe the media from you guys when you're in school or when you're in a public library, right? But it's not good when your school blocks YouTube, or when your school blocks certain research databases that you need to gain access to do college work, right? Um, it also gets into that question again, like, why are we blocking these things when you guys are kind of getting to the point where you're mature enough, or hopefully you're getting to that point to be mature enough to learn about that, right? Like we're teaching you sex ed in high school. Okay, why isn't that you can't search certain things up online so you can learn? Okay, the FCC also looked at this because remember we didn't want to violate the First Amendment. That's why all the other acts that we just went over they didn't really pass. This one didn't force libraries or force schools to block their internet, but it incentivized them because they would lose out on some financial assistance for paying for their internet. So what did most schools and what did most libraries decide to do? They're gonna go ahead and they're gonna block that because they want to receive the same funding. Okay. Um, a couple other things though, like it's we can only do so much at this point when it comes to blocking certain websites online. at school because you guys all have your own personal devices. You can hop on a hotspot. You guys can use a VPN. And if you guys really wanted to, you can still get on TikTok at school. You can still be on Instagram. You can still be on it in class. Okay. You can be on it right now when you're supposed to be watching this video. Okay. It's gotten to that point. Okay. Some other things to discuss too. Um, so your textbook not only talks about, I know we're talking a lot more about the internet because it's easier for you to relate to, but it talks about certain types of movies like Saving Private Ryan or The Patriot. Like, should that be able to be shown on TV because it's bloody? Okay, it's really explicit. And the FCC argued that if it's for educational purposes, it should be okay. Just like it's okay to talk about sex ed in high school because it is for educational purposes. It's an inappropriate topic if you were talking about it in a regular class, but in a health or a science class, it's okay. Even in this class, we talk about some pretty, I would say, like maybe what would be considered inappropriate for some classes. Like, we're talking about the Charlie Kirk incident in here. And, that might not be normal in a regular class, but it's okay because it's for historical purposes. Like we're trying to learn, I'm not trying to hide or shelter you, okay? If I was trying to hide and shelter you, I would just teach you guys like a good example is how you guys get taught history. No, you guys are a little kid, they teach you about history, the colonists and the settlers, they grew crops together, they were friends, they had dinner. Uh, that's not true though. Colonists came over here and spread disease and killed, and they were raping and killing each other. You learn about the true story about Pocahontas. She was a minor, and those were grown men. So, should I continue to hide history from you and treat you like children, or should I be telling you guys exactly how it is? Because you're going to be an adults, and I need you guys to learn the true vulgar and explicit version of history in order to kind of be a functioning adult, okay? So you can get back when it comes to government. Once again, this just kind of talks about like who do you think's issue is this to fix? It's up to you. I think everyone can do a better job. Government could probably do a better job of forming legislation or maybe at least trying to keep up as best they can. It's hard, like right now their main concerns are going to be AI when it comes to social media right now. Private companies I think could do a better job. Okay, I love talking about Kanye and Kim Kardashian here. Kanye was real big on making sure that their daughter wasn't on TikTok because she didn't meet the requirements to even be on the app age-wise. Did TikTok do their job and take down her account? No, they should have. So how many little kids are coming across things like that or on accounts that they shouldn't be? Or and then you have Kim Kardashian who's saying, "Oh yeah, I know exactly everything that North does on there." And then she's filming TikToks with Ice Spice, and there's all these weird people online commenting, sending her messages, and there's things that are coming across her timeline that she shouldn't be seeing as a kid. It's a questionable thing when it comes to family values. There's a conflict there, okay? It doesn't even have to be TikTok. We can look at YouTube. Like, why is it that YouTube allows for this gets back into the educational thing, by the way. YouTube allows nudity for educational purposes. Great example of this, the Nair video. Okay, you guys have probably seen it before. Other like you go on YouTube right now, they have nude yoga on there. They talk about sexual education on there, and it's okay to show these vulgar, violent, like not more explicit, not really violent, more explicit when it comes to like sexual behavior online because it's for educational purposes. Okay, now would everyone want their kid to be able to have access to that on YouTube? Probably not, right? And that might even be something that you could see on your school Wi-Fi, which is crazy because once again, certain websites are blocked off to protect you because you guys shouldn't be talking or really looking at that stuff. Now, which way are we going? There's a big conflict here. Conflict between family and market values. Whose responsibility is it to fix it? It's kind of confusing. Okay. Couple things when it comes to media that I'll kind of list out. This isn't really important. You don't have to know it for the exam, but media has played a big role in shaping who we are as a nation. Okay. At least social media. Okay. Sadly, we have gotten the version of social media where children are now influenced by brain rot. So, streaming and content creation culture, which is one of the top careers that most American children want to go into. While Chinese children are very interested in becoming lawyers and doctors and engineers because their TikTok algorithm looked a lot more like the STEM tab that you guys don't like to click on. So, media's pretty important. It influences us, and not just influences in the way where, you know, we have to learn about things and it's teaching us or to give us stuff to talk about, but also to keep government in check. So it's important that we have media, okay? We don't want to be living in a country like North Korea where it's all propaganda. It's essential. It's just probably isn't handled the best way, and it's probably due to the fact that they're trying to make money at the same time. So I try to make this short. It ended up getting around 20 minutes. If you have any questions on this chapter, feel free to reach out. I probably could have discussed. I usually discuss this for almost like 2 weeks in class, so making this in 20 minutes is pretty impressive. I also probably skipped over a lot of the fun stories that I like to talk about during this chapter. But regardless, I hope you guys are all doing well. I'll be sure to post chapter 8 really shortly because I'm going to record it right now. So you guys have a good rest of your day or night whenever you're watching this. And best of luck to everyone who's taken their first exam or is still in the process of taking it. Bye.